Chosen one, the cycle you've been trapped in is about to shatter, and heaven has chosen August 8th as your liberation date. Stop scrolling and listen closely. This isn't content you stumbled upon. You are receiving a divine transmission about the most significant spiritual reset of your lifetime. What if every repeated pattern, every failed attempt, every moment you felt stuck was actually preparing you for this exact moment? If you ignore what's coming next, you'll stay locked in the same loop that's been draining your soul for months, maybe years. This message carries the blueprint for your escape, delivered precisely when your spirit was ready to break free. You are not here by accident. What's ahead in this message will reveal exactly why August 8th holds the key to ending your cycle of frustration. But first, every loop you've experienced has been a divine rehearsal, teaching you to recognize the moment when freedom finally arrives. The patterns weren't punishment. They were preparation for this breakthrough. Hit the like button to declare, "I'm ready to receive this divine message." It takes just a second, but help spread this word to thousands of other chosen ones who need it right now. By the end of this video, you'll understand why every door had to close, why every plan had to fall apart, and why August 8 represents the night your soul breaks free from everything that tried to keep you small. The spiritual realm is about to move in ways you haven't seen before. This isn't just another date on the calendar. It's a prophetic marker that's been written in heaven's timeline specifically for your deliverance. Comment 888 as a prophetic act that declares, "I receive God's infinite provision and new beginnings in this season." What's on your heart today? Leave your prayer request in the comments and then take a moment to lift someone else up with words of encouragement. When you share your prayer, others will intercede for you. When you pray for someone else, God moves in ways you never imagined. And to all our channel members, thank you for your continued support and faith. May God return it to you in peace, provision, and divine favor. Have you ever found yourself caught in that relentless echo of past mistakes, that familiar loop where life feels less like a journey forward and more like a hamster wheel of disappointment, spinning furiously but never truly moving ahead? It's a weariness that seeps into your bones, isn't it? Perhaps it's a narrative that replays itself in your most intimate relationships, where the same patterns of hurt or misunderstanding, the same quiet frustrations, keep resurfacing like uninvited guests. At the dinner table of your heart, you yearn for deeper connection, for authentic understanding, but find yourself trapped in a dance you've performed countless times before, always ending in the same familiar ache. Or maybe it's in your finances, a perpetual cycle of feast and famine, where abundance feels like a fleeting visitor and scarcity an unwelcome, lingering resident, never quite settling into stable, generative flow. You save, you plan, you pray, but the ground beneath you seems to perpetually shift, leaving you feeling perpetually unstable. For some, it's a nagging internal struggle, a persistent whisper of inadequacy or fear that seems to cling to every new endeavor, like a shadow refusing to be shaken. You dream of soaring, but an invisible tether holds you grounded, whispering, "You're not ready, you're not enough, you'll fail." That feeling of hitting the same wall over and over, of pouring your heart and soul, your very essence, into something only to see the same outcome, the same closed door, can be utterly exhausting, can't it? It's like tending a garden with the most meticulous care, planting seeds of hope and effort, only to see the same weeds of disappointment choke out every tender sprout. It strips away your hope, slowly eroding your belief that anything truly, fundamentally different is possible, convincing you that your destiny is merely to repeat the past. But what if I told you that every single one of those loops, every time you've picked yourself up from the dust and tried again, every tear silently shed in the quiet solitude of frustration, has actually been a divine signal, a deeply personal, intricately coded message, meticulously crafted by the loving, patient hand of God Himself, gently and persistently preparing your spirit for something truly monumental, something breathtakingly new, something that will utterly transform the landscape of your life. Imagine a master artisan working with the most precious material, shaping it, refining it, sometimes even putting it through intense heat, not to destroy, but to bring forth its purest, most resilient form. That's what these cycles have been. A divine refinement, a sacred preparation. There is a specific release, a significant spirit-led shift, a profound moment of liberation and breakthrough that has been woven into the very fabric of your unique story, a grand unveiling that is not accidental, but divinely ordained. It is a moment when the chains that have bound you, the patterns that have restricted you, will simply fall away, not by your sheer will or effort, but by the precise timing and power of heaven. And for many of you, that sacred release, that grand unveiling, that moment of profound freedom is scheduled for August 8th. I know the weariness that settles in your spirit. It might feel as though you've been circling the same formidable mountain for what seems like an eternity, tracing the same well-worn paths without ever reaching the summit. You look at the unchanging landscape of your struggles, the dust of past battles still clinging to your shoes, and you might hear a quiet, weary voice in your heart asking, "Am I ever going to get past this? Will I ever break free from this familiar, suffocating terrain? Am I destined to walk this same ground forever?" It's a valid question, born of prolonged endurance. But here, my friend, is the beautiful, liberating truth, one you might not have seen or truly grasped while you were in the midst of your struggle, while your vision was clouded by the dust of your journey. While you were feeling lost or stuck, feeling unseen and unheard, heaven was not ignoring you, quite the opposite, in fact. Heaven was meticulously charting your every movement, observing every falter, every struggle, every tear that traced a path down your cheek, a testament to your quiet perseverance, and every small, hard-won victory, no matter how insignificant it felt at the time. All of it. Every single moment of challenge and perseverance, every prayer whispered in the dark, every step taken in faith despite the odds, was designed with incredible precision to build up your resilience, to forge a strength within you that you didn't even know you possessed, a fortitude that could only be refined and sharpened in the crucible of divine preparation. It was God's workshop, quietly, powerfully shaping you into the person you are destined to be. Think about Moses, a giant of faith, whose very story echoes with divine delays. He wandered in the wilderness for 40 long, arduous years, a season that seemed unending and often, humanly speaking, unproductive. It wasn't because God forgot him or because God was punishing him. No, the wilderness, with its stark beauty and its unforgiving lessons, with its desolate landscapes and its profound silences, was a divine training ground. It was a school of the soul, a profound university of character, building the unshakable resolve, the deep humility that only comes from utter dependence on a God who provides manna in the desert and water from a rock, and the profound surrender required for him to finally lead a nation, millions of souls, into the promised land. His delays weren't random detours, they were crucial, sacred spaces where his destiny was sharpened, where his character was molded, where he learned to hear the whisper of God above the howling winds of chaos and the murmuring of a complaining people. He learned to trust, not in his own strength or intellect, but in the divine wisdom that spoke from a burning bush and a cloud by day. And just like for Moses, your delays have never been random either. They were never wasted time. Every tear you cried, every ounce of frustration that tightened your chest, every moment of uncertainty that clouded your vision, it was all watering the roots of a breakthrough that is now truly about to burst forth and bloom in your life. It's been growing beneath the surface, unseen, unheard, but powerful, gathering strength, collecting divine energy, ready to emerge in glorious, vibrant color, a testament to God's patient, perfecting work in you. But here's the really crucial part, the one profound truth that quietly holds most people back, and what I believe heaven wants to gently yet firmly confront in your heart right now. A lot of us never realize that the very cycle we're desperate to escape, the familiar ache of being stuck, that well-worn groove of disappointment, can actually become a strange, even perverse kind of comfort zone. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? Counterintuitive, perhaps even absurd. But even your frustration, that pattern of broken promises and unfulfilled desires, has its own predictable rhythm. You know precisely how it feels. You know its familiar contours. It's like wearing a pair of old, slightly uncomfortable shoes that rub you in all the wrong places. You know where they pinch, where they chafe, but you also know precisely what to expect from them. You've become intimately acquainted with their limitations. And sometimes, unconsciously, we cling to what's familiar, even if it's totally dysfunctional and clearly not serving our highest good, because stepping out into the unknown, into the vast, open space of possibility, feels so much riskier, so much more vulnerable, so much more exposed than just staying stuck in the rut we know, even if that rut is filled with pain. We get used to the narrative, the whispered lie we've internalized over years, even decades. This is just how my life is going to be, or this is my lot in life, my cross to bear. We build intricate, unseen walls of familiarity around our limitations, convincing ourselves that this confined space is all we deserve, all we're capable of. But right here, right now, as we draw closer to August 8th, God is not merely suggesting, He is gently but firmly commanding you. He's asking you to let go of those old scripts, those worn-out patterns that have defined your past, those familiar frustrations that have become an unwelcome companion, an uninvited guest, and to finally receive the deep, expansive upgrade your spirit has been aching for, a radical spiritual upgrade designed just for you. This isn't about you having to force a breakthrough, to push harder or strive more, to climb higher or wrestle endlessly with your circumstances, exhausting yourself in the process. It's actually about yielding. It's about releasing the white-knuckle grip of control, about loosening your fingers from what you thought you needed to hold on to, and trusting in a timed release that God has already scheduled, already set in motion for you. It's a divine appointment that only requires your surrender, your willing, open-hearted reception. Remember the Israelites? They only entered the promised land, that land flowing with milk and honey, when they stopped rehearsing the fears and failures of Egypt in their minds, when they stopped craving the familiar comforts of slavery. They had to mentally and spiritually leave the past behind, letting go of the familiar, even the familiar misery of their bondage, to embrace the unknown promise, the terrifyingly beautiful newness of a land they had only heard about. They had to shed the skin of their slave mentality. So what is that internal script, that old story you keep telling yourself about your limitations or your past, that whispered lie that has become so familiar it feels like truth, that God is asking you to finally set down today? What old fear, what past failure, what self-condemnation are you still holding on to, even subconsciously, that's preventing you from stepping fully and freely into the new, abundant life He has so lavishly prepared for you, a life of profound peace and boundless potential? You know, some of the greatest, most profound breakthroughs in life don't come from frantically searching for all the answers, from dissecting every problem with a magnifying glass, or from endlessly striving to figure things out through sheer mental effort. They actually come when you quiet yourself down, when you still the clamor of your own racing thoughts and the incessant noise of the world, and simply start sitting with revelation. It's about receiving, not striving. It's about allowing truth to steep in your soul, like a warm, comforting tea that slowly permeates every cell of your being, bringing quiet understanding and peace. It's about creating sacred space within for God's truth to unfold gently, organically, revealing its wisdom in His perfect timing. If that idea resonates deep within your spirit, if you feel a quiet stirring, a knowing that you are tired of the endless search and truly ready for some real insight, for wisdom that cuts through the confusion and speaks directly to your heart, illuminating your path. Then I want to invite you to take a gentle yet powerful next step. It's an e-book called The 10 Hidden Truths of Jesus Parables. This isn't just theory, a dry collection of theological ideas or ancient stories. It's a short, incredibly powerful resource that opens up practical, spirit-led truths that can directly impact areas like your money, bringing divine wisdom to your stewardship, your healing journey, unveiling paths to wholeness, and especially your emotional clarity and peace, untangling the knots of confusion and anxiety. It's about taking those profound, timeless stories Jesus told and unlocking their real-world application for your life right now, right where you are, in the midst of your daily realities. You'll find the link right there in the first comment of this video, easy to access, a simple click away. But just a heads up, it's only available for a limited time. This isn't a marketing ploy or a superficial scarcity tactic. It's because we really want to focus this experience, this powerful unlocking of truth, on those who are truly ready to take action on what God is speaking, on those whose hearts are genuinely open and hungry to receive. Now let's talk about how to walk this path of release together, step by conscious step. This isn't a magical fix that happens overnight without your participation. It's a series of conscious choices, an intentional journey hand in hand with God, a sacred dance of letting go and receiving, of surrendering and stepping forward in faith. It requires your heart, your willingness, and your courage. First, and this is so foundational it often gets overlooked in our rush to do something, you have to actively, intentionally break agreement with the insidious lie that you're bound forever to your past or your limitations. This lie, a venomous whisper from the pit of hell, tries to define you by your past failures, your family history, or the wounds you've carried. Have you ever caught yourself saying, perhaps under your breath, in a moment of quiet despair, "This is just who I am," or "I'll always struggle with this particular issue, it's just my lot," or "I'm just like my mother, father, doomed to repeat their mistakes, their patterns, their curses"? Those are not truths, dear one. They are insidious lies straight from the pit of hell, meticulously designed to keep you small and stuck, to suffocate your potential and steal your divine inheritance. They are internal narratives, self-imposed prison bars, forged in fear and regret, that try to define and confine you to a history that God has already redeemed. It's time to actively reject them, to stand firmly, boldly in the truth of your divine identity as a beloved child of God, fearfully and wonderfully made, marked by His grace, not your history. Think about Jacob, a man whose very name by definition meant deceiver or supplanter. He lived up to that name for much of his early life, operating out of cunning and manipulation. Yet one night, he literally wrestled with an angel, with God himself, all night long, refusing to let go, clinging on, not because he was fighting against God, but because he was fighting for his new identity, for the blessing God intended to bestow. He wouldn't release the angel until he received his blessing, a new name, Israel, meaning struggles with God or God contends. He was no longer labeled by the cunning mistakes of his past, by his conniving nature, but he was blessed for an incredible destiny, becoming the father of a nation, a lineage of kings and nations. You have that same power to wrestle with those lies, to refuse to let them define you, and to claim the new, glorious identity God has for you, an identity rooted in His truth, not in your past. This is such a crucial step, and honestly, it's one that most people instinctively avoid because it means confronting deeply held, often unconscious beliefs about ourselves. But when you do it, when you declare, "No more, I am who God says I am free from that old story," it changes everything. It's a declaration of war against the enemy's tactics and a powerful alignment with heaven's truth. Second, You've got to bring the pattern into the light. What you refuse to acknowledge, what you keep hidden away in the dark corners of your soul, only grows stronger in the shadows. It festers, it repeats its toxic cycle, and it gains an insidious, quiet power over your life, subtly dictating your choices and outcomes. Imagine a dark, dusty corner in your house, perhaps a cluttered attic or a forgotten closet, where things just pile up: old junk, forgotten dreams, unspoken resentments, unaddressed hurts. Until you turn on the light, bravely roll up your sleeves and start sorting through the mess, that corner just gets messier and messier, becoming a breeding ground for stagnation and despair, a monument to what has been ignored. It's the same with our inner patterns, our hidden habits, our subconscious cycles. When King David, despite all his power and fame, despite his outward success and anointing, finally confessed his hidden cycles, not just a single isolated sin like the adultery with Bathsheba, but the pattern of his sin, the darkness within him that led to such actions. To God, it didn't lead to his destruction or downfall. Instead, his raw honesty and profound repentance triggered generations of mercy and favor for his lineage. It set him free to truly walk with God again, to be a man after God's own heart, not because he was perfect, but because his vulnerability became his greatest strength, allowing God's light to shine into every hidden crevice. So, what's that pattern, that recurring issue that you know deep down is there, but you keep sweeping under the rug of denial, hoping it will just disappear? It's time to shine God's purifying, compassionate light on it, openly and honestly. Write it down in a journal, speak it out loud to a trusted, spirit-led friend or mentor who can hold space for you without judgment, or simply lay it bare before God in prayer, knowing his gaze is not one of condemnation, but of compassionate understanding, yearning to heal and transform. Third, and this is a big one that requires conscious effort and intentionality, silence the voice that's not God's. Our minds are incredibly noisy places, aren't they? Filled with so many competing voices, our own insecurities, whispering doubts, the crushing expectations of others echoing in our ears, the constant hum and static of social media, the endless news cycle demanding our attention, and yes, sometimes the subtle, deceptive whispers of the enemy trying to sow doubt, fear, and confusion. Discernment, that invaluable spiritual ability to know God's voice clearly and distinguish it from all the others, often starts not with adding more information or frantically searching for answers, but with subtraction. It's about getting rid of the static, the interference, the distracting cacophony that drowns out the divine, so you can hear the clear, resonant signal of the Holy Spirit. Remember Elijah? He was terrified, running for his life from Jezebel, feeling utterly alone and utterly depleted, physically and emotionally exhausted, wishing he could die. God showed up, but not in the roaring, powerful wind that tore through the mountains, or the shaking earthquake, or the consuming fire that followed. He heard God's whisper, a gentle stillness, a delicate, almost imperceptible voice, only after he silenced the drama and the distraction around him and within him, after the chaos had passed. He found God in the quiet, in the space between the storms. What are the voices, the endless distractions, the constant streams of information, the digital noise, the internal chatter that are keeping you from hearing God clearly, from discerning his quiet, perfect direction for your life? Sometimes, the hidden habit feeding your delay, binding you to the past, is simply a profound aversion to true stillness, an inability to quiet your soul long enough to hear. Fourth, release the timeline. Oh, this is a hard one for so many of us, because we live in a world that's all about schedules and deadlines, about instant gratification and predictable outcomes. We have our own meticulously crafted ideas about when things should happen, when we should get that promotion, when we should find that partner, when we should overcome that challenge, when our prayers must be answered because we've waited long enough. We plot out our lives with human precision, then get frustrated when God doesn't follow our blueprint. But your schedule is absolutely not God's schedule, and trying to force God into your limited human timeline often leads to deep frustration, agonizing impatience, or even dangerous shortcuts that pull you away from His perfect and abundant best, leading to disappointment and regret. Look at Abraham, the father of faith, a man whose story is synonymous with waiting. He received his promise of a son, Isaac, decades late by human standards. He was an old man, and Sarah was well past childbearing age, seemingly beyond hope, humanly speaking. But from heaven's perspective, it was exactly on time. The waiting period, the arduous journey, the tests of faith, the wilderness of barrenness, it all served a profound purpose. It built his faith to a place where, when the promise finally arrived, it was undeniable, a true staggering miracle, a testament to God's faithfulness, not man's effort. So, loosen your grip on your calendar. Open your hands, dear one, and trust that God knows the perfect, most divine moment for your breakthrough, a time that will bring Him the most glory and bring you the most profound, lasting joy. His timing is impeccable, even when it feels slow to us. Fifth, surrender what feels safest. This is where it gets really uncomfortable, where the rubber meets the road of true, audacious faith, right? We hold on to things, a job we don't truly like, but that pays the bills and offers a perceived security, a relationship that's clearly unhealthy and draining but feels familiar, old habits that bring temporary comfort but long-term pain and stagnation. We grip them tight, sometimes with white knuckles, because they feel safe. They represent a known quantity, even when they're actually holding us back, quietly suffocating our potential and stifling our spirit. But here's the unvarnished truth, spoken with love. You simply cannot step into the new, into the expansive, abundant future God has for you, while you're still clinging onto the old, the worn out, the less than. You cannot carry yesterday's baggage into tomorrow's promised land. You must release what no longer serves your divine purpose. Peter knew this. When Jesus called him, he literally left his fishing nets, his livelihood, his security, his entire history, his generational trade, the very scent of the sea that defined his existence, behind, right there on the shore. He walked away from everything he knew. He stepped out, uncertain about what was next, but trusting in the audacious invitation of Jesus, an invitation to fish for men. It was a terrifying leap of faith into the unknown, leaving behind what felt safest for a greater, divinely appointed purpose. What is it that you're still gripping onto, that God is gently asking you to release, to lay down at His feet, to trust Him with? And I promise you, what's coming next when you do this will likely surprise you. It always does, unfolding in ways more beautiful and abundant, more perfectly choreographed than you could have ever imagined or planned for yourself. Sixth, ask God to show you the root, not just the symptom. We're really good at treating symptoms, aren't we? We're excellent at managing the surface manifestations of deeper issues. We feel anxious, so we try to manage the anxiety with coping mechanisms. We feel angry, so we try to control our anger through various techniques. We battle chronic fatigue, so we look for energy boosts and quick fixes. We put bandages on wounds that need deep surgical healing. But sometimes, you're merely treating the anxiety when the real, deeper issue is a profound lack of trust in God's unwavering provision or His intimate, ever-present presence. You might be battling chronic fatigue and low energy when the root is an unaddressed spiritual burnout, a deep soul weariness from carrying burdens that were never yours to bear, from constantly striving in your own strength. Think about the woman at the well in the Bible. She came to Jesus thirsty for physical water, for a momentary quenching of a tangible, immediate need. But Jesus, with His incredible divine insight, went straight for her deeper longing. He didn't just offer her physical water. He confronted her profound need for true belonging, for unconditional acceptance, for a deep, soul-level quenching that no amount of physical water or fleeting, broken relationships could ever truly provide. He saw past the surface of her life to the gaping wounds in her soul, So pause in this moment, still your heart, and ask God with genuine humility and an open spirit, Lord, what is the root of this issue in my life? Show me beyond the surface, beyond the symptoms, what's really going on in the depths of my heart and spirit that is perpetuating this cycle. He is faithful to reveal it, to shine a penetrating light into the hidden, unexamined places, not to shame you, but to set you free. Seventh, you absolutely must forgive yourself for letting the cycle continue. This is a huge one, perhaps one of the most powerful and liberating steps, because shame is the enemy's glue. It sticks to us, whispering corrosive accusations, telling us we're failures, that we should have known better, that we're beyond hope or redemption, that we're utterly worthless. This insidious shame keeps us trapped in a self-imposed prison of self-condemnation, making it almost impossible to move forward, to believe in a new beginning, to embrace the grace God offers. But Jesus, in his infinite, boundless grace, modeled the ultimate self-forgiveness and restoration with Peter. After Peter, in a moment of fear and weakness, denied him 3 times, denying even knowing Jesus, imagine the crushing, suffocating weight of shame and regret Peter must have carried in his soul. He had betrayed his Lord. But Jesus met him on the shore, not with accusation or condemnation, but with love and with 3 simple, powerful words, "Feed my sheep." He didn't just forgive Peter. He restored his purpose. He recommissioned his future. He reaffirmed his trust in Peter's calling. He broke the cycle of denial and shame with a clear, forward-looking assignment, an invitation back into relationship and ministry. He essentially said, "Your past failures don't define your future purpose. They merely paved the way for a deeper understanding of my grace, a profound revelation of my unconditional love and forgiveness. So, let go of the shame. Release the whip of self-condemnation you've been using on yourself. Forgive yourself." God certainly has, and his forgiveness is all that truly matters. Embrace his grace and step into your restored purpose. 8th, make a prophetic declaration. This isn't just wishful thinking or positive affirmations, though those have their place. It's speaking in faith, aligning your words with God's eternal truth and his revealed will for your life, even when your current reality doesn't yet match it. It's speaking what you've never seen but are ready to receive, bringing it into existence with the creative power of your words, echoing God's own voice, which called light out of darkness and being out of nothingness. God called Gideon a mighty warrior, while Gideon was literally hiding in a winepress, trembling with fear, seeing himself as the least of his family, from the weakest clan in Israel. Imagine that. A divine declaration over a man who saw only his limitations, his inadequacy, his fear. But God spoke a new reality over him, a powerful, audacious identity that contradicted everything Gideon knew about himself. And that word, that divine declaration, became Gideon's reality, empowering him to deliver a nation from oppression, to become the mighty warrior God declared him to be. So what is God calling you? What truth about yourself, what promise, what breakthrough are you ready to speak over your life? Even if it feels audacious or impossible right now, even if your circumstances scream otherwise, declare it. Believe it with every fiber of your being, and watch God align your reality with his potent living word, for his word never returns void. 9th, invest in your future with a single obedient step. Sometimes we get utterly overwhelmed by the sheer size of the mountain in front of us. We want to see the whole path, the entire blueprint, every twist and turn, every obstacle identified before we dare to take a single step. We demand clarity for the entire journey. But often God just asks for one step of obedience, one small, seemingly insignificant act of faith, trusting that he will illuminate the next step when you take the first. Think about Ruth, a Moabite widow, utterly destitute, facing a bleak and hopeless future in a foreign land. She had every reason to stay put, to cling to the familiar, to protect herself. But she made one incredibly obedient, trusting step. She left her familiar homeland of Moab to go to Bethlehem with her mother-in-law, Naomi, clinging only to her steadfast faith in the God of Israel, the God of her mother-in-law. That single step, fueled by unwavering trust and sacrificial love, set her on a course that led her not only to provision and a new family, to a loving husband in Boaz, but to become the great-grandmother of King David and ultimately an ancestor of Jesus himself, the Messiah. From desolation to destiny, all from one faithful, obedient decision. What is that one small, obedient step you know God is asking you to take today, even if it feels insignificant or illogical, even if it makes no human sense? That one step can unlock an entire lineage of blessing and shift your entire trajectory, setting in motion a divine domino effect that will astound you. 10th, confront your comfort with holy discomfort. This is where the rubber truly meets the road, where faith is forged in the fire of paradox, where true spiritual growth occurs. Sometimes the real test of your faith isn't when God shows up in a big miraculous way, parting seas or raining manna from heaven. The real test comes when nothing looks different at all, when the path is unclear, when there are no outward signs of progress, and He still asks you to move, to act, to trust Him implicitly. It's about doing the hard, uncomfortable thing that God calls you to, even when you don't feel like it, or when you don't see any immediate evidence of change or breakthrough, when your natural senses scream that you're wasting your time. Remember Joshua and the Israelites marching around Jericho? For 6 long days they walked in silence, just walking, encircling a formidable enemy city. Not a single brick fell, not a single sign of progress. That must have felt incredibly uncomfortable, perhaps even foolish or absurd to the onlookers, and certainly to some within their own ranks. A monumental waste of time and energy, but their persistent obedience, their holy discomfort in marching before the evidence, ultimately brought down those formidable walls on the 7th day in a cataclysmic, miraculous collapse. What area of your life is God calling you to step into discomfort, to be obedient without needing to see the immediate result, to embrace the stretching of your faith, to trust His process even when it feels illogical? This is where your deepest liberation often lies. 11th, ask God to reveal the hidden tie, that allegiance or habit that you keep rationalizing, that quiet connection to the past you refuse to sever, even though you know it limits you. We're masters of rationalization, aren't we? We can find a way to justify almost anything, to make the dysfunctional seem necessary, to make a comforting lie feel like a strategic truth. But sometimes there's a secret allegiance, a hidden habit, a soul tie to an old relationship or way of thinking, or even a material possession that we cling to, thinking it's valuable or necessary, thinking it protects us, but in reality, it's quietly, subtly, insidiously keeping us from our destiny, from the fullness of God's plan, from the freedom He has for us. King Saul tragically lost his kingdom, not because of a single massive sin, but because he refused to destroy what God told him was dangerous, because he clung to what looked valuable, the best of the livestock, the king of the Amalekites, rationalizing that it was for sacrifice or honor, for the sake of reputation, to please the people. But God saw it as direct disobedience, a hidden tie to the old way, a subtle rebellion, a profound refusal to fully surrender that ultimately cost him everything. Is there something in your life, a habit, a relationship, an allegiance, a way of thinking, a comfortable lie you tell yourself, that you keep rationalizing, that God is actually calling you to sever, to bravely let go of, to cut ties with, so you can fully step into His best? Ask Him with an open heart and a humble spirit to show you the hidden ties that bind you. 12th, and this is truly the profound contradiction you might never have expected in your journey to freedom. Sometimes, the real breakthrough isn't about a door opening wider, about more opportunities appearing, or about receiving more of everything. Sometimes it's about finding the courage, the divine permission to close the ones God never intended for you to walk through in the first place, the ones that lead to dead ends or detours. We often think breakthrough means more opportunities, more open doors, more expansion in every direction, an endless stream of possibilities. But true liberation can often be found in subtraction, in simplification, in saying a decisive, courageous no to what is not for you, to what drains your energy or diverts your focus from your true purpose, to what pulls you back into the old cycle. Jesus himself modeled this with profound clarity and unwavering focus. He left entire towns behind, towns where he had performed incredible miracles, where people were clamoring for his attention and healing, begging him to stay, simply because they weren't part of the one singular assignment that truly mattered, the Father's will for his life. He knew when to walk away, when to release, when to close a door that wasn't leading to his ultimate, divinely ordained purpose. You, my friend, are absolutely permitted by divine decree, by the very authority of heaven, to walk away from those old cycles, those draining connections, those pathways that lead nowhere but back to your past. You are permitted to step boldly, unburdened by the past, light and free, into the unknown. Your liberation isn't tied to what's currently in your hand, or what you think you need to hold on to, or what you've always done. It's tied directly to your willingness to trust that what's next, what God has for you, is so incredibly vast, so immeasurably good, so deeply fulfilling, so perfectly aligned with your soul's deepest longing, that it's worth leaving everything else behind. It's about a deep, unwavering trust that God's plan is always, always better than anything you could conceive or cling to, a plan that far exceeds your wildest dreams. So tonight, before you finally drift off to sleep as you lay your head down, I want to invite you to do something profoundly powerful, something that can shift the very atmosphere around you, not just externally, but deep within your spirit, settling into the core of your being. Close your eyes, take a deep, cleansing breath, allowing it to fill your lungs and your soul, letting it release any lingering tension or fear. And then say this prayer out loud, letting the words resonate in every fiber of your being, letting them become a sacred vow, a declaration of your intent to align with heaven's purpose for you. I release all fear. I release all doubt. I step into my divine purpose, and I trust that my miracle is already on its way. Say it slowly. Feel it. Let the words soak into your spirit. Believe it with every fiber of your being. If that prayer resonates deep within your spirit, if you feel a stirring, a profound connection to this message, a sense that something powerful is indeed shifting within you, a quiet knowing that your season is changing, I encourage you to drop an 888 in the comments below. It's a way for us to connect, to acknowledge that a powerful movement is taking place, a collective release, a symphony of liberation. And even more than that, I want to encourage you to share this video, or better yet, to pray this exact prayer with someone else in person, holding their hand or looking into their eyes, releasing them as you release yourself. Your deliverance, your act of release, your courageous step into the new may very well be the spark, the exact catalyst, the liberating ripple effect for someone else's breakthrough, setting them free to find their own path. Let God meet you right here, right now, in this sacred space of surrender and release, in the quiet confidence of His perfect timing. And watch, truly watch, the incredible story He begins to write for you, a narrative of profound freedom and boundless abundance, starting on August 8th. This could be the story, the shift, the new beginning, the chapter of profound peace and unwavering purpose, the life you have waited your whole life to live. Step into it, fully and bravely.